Good evening. Good evening again. How are you? Welcome to the Minding Our Business Financial Academy. This is our weekly live, and we made a little bit of a pivot this week. We're coming to you live on a Wednesday night. So we're just testing out some nights. The first couple sessions we came live on Sunday nights. That is typically the night of the week where I take the time to do my own weekly planning. But based on some of the feedback, we're trying to meet your need and bring the information to you. So we're going to try out a Wednesday night, and maybe we do both nights, or maybe we pivot. But go ahead and drop something in the chat, or if you're watching this at a later date, go ahead and comment on this live stream. Tell us what's the preferable day for you to attend. I know we have people on the West Coast of America, on the East Coast, and there's a few international people that join us as well. So welcome to all of you that are joining us here on our first Wednesday night version of the live. We're coming up on the holiday season. Can you believe it? Here in the US, Thanksgiving is next week. So this is the perfect time to give thanks for the blessings that the Lord has provided for us, and also make a structure and a plan for those blessings. So let me get you caught up. We didn't go live over the weekend. I had a lot of traveling. Believe it or not, in the last 9 or 10 days, I've been to several islands in the Caribbean and about 3 or 4 US states, just traveling for family events. But finances and planning still are top of mind throughout this season of transition. So, as we get caught up on this week's live, last week we talked about the track it phase, and the emphasis for last week was the condition of our flocks. If you guys remember that scripture that we looked at, it was knowing the condition of our flocks. And we used that as a launch point to review our tracking system. I went through our tracking spreadsheet, and we went through calculating tithing, saving. We went through all of our fixed expenses, our variable expenses, looking at our overall expenses, looking at the money that was left over all after all of those responsibilities and commitments, and then talking about how to reallocate those funds away from lifestyle and frivolous spending, really beginning to direct the money in the places that we intend our dollars to go, so that we can have a rich and abundant life. You're probably saying, Lionel, your background's very different. Usually you have the wood slats. I'm not in the studio today. Actually in Detroit, Michigan, in one of my investment properties. So when you begin to track and manage your finances, you too can begin to have investment property that pays back into you and your budget. So I'm just living some of the things that I'm trying to teach and share with you. I went through the system of tracking my finances, building up my opportunity fund, and deploying it into assets like this one that I'm sitting in right now, that returns money, finances, capital back to me on a monthly basis. So let's dive into this week. So last week, again, we talked about track it. This week is plan it. So we are going to go first into our scriptural focus for the week. So as I here talk to you, my producer is going to help me and pull up our slides for us. So we're going to start out really talking about the theme for this week. Again, it's planning your week and making sure you have purpose to what you're going to do financially for the week. Remember, your money doesn't obey your emotions. Your emotions are actually shortcutting the destination that you want for your life. So when you begin to meet individually, as a family, as a couple, and talk about your finances, what did you do last week? What do you intend to do this week? And is it in line and in direction with the goals you have for yourself? This time of year is a particularly crucial time of the year to make sure you're having these sorts of meetings. Why? There's spending variances that are coming up. So next week, I talked about Thanksgiving. That's a spending variance. That's a time where you're typically shopping for way more groceries than you would in a usual weekend or month. Many of us have travel as we go to see family and friends to celebrate the holiday. And then immediately after that, there's Black Friday, one of the biggest spending days of the year. That's next Friday. And then right after that, 3 days later, there's Cyber Monday, another big online spending day. And all of this is contrived by society, by big industry to separate you from your resources. Yes, you may want some of those things. Yes, you plan to show love and care for the people around you with the gift giving and the visiting and the fellowshipping and the eating. But did you plan for it? There is a way that you can partake in these things, but yet still have them be a part of your plan so they're not surprises. So that at the end of the year, you're not accumulating and amassing a great amount of debt just to be partaking in these celebrations or following the societal norms of filling up your online cart on Cyber Monday, but you're being purposeful with your actions, your intention, and most of all, the resources God has blessed you with. So let's get into this lesson. So, as we look at our scriptural focus, the focus for this week is Proverbs 24, verses 3 and 4. Let me read them for you. By wisdom, a house is built, and through understanding, it is established. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. I love this scripture because it talks about very specific action steps and it actually puts them in a cadence that they have to occur. So, first comes the wisdom, making right and accurate decisions for what and where you are financially and in that phase of life. So your house is built through wisdom. It's not built accidentally. It's not built through emotion. It's built through wisdom. Second, understanding. That's taking stock of where you are to make sure you're establishing the plans for that household. That's exactly where we're going to be and what we're going to discuss today. And then through knowledge, this is the knowledge and the accurate deploying of those resources into the rooms to fill them with these rare and beautiful treasures. Now, this is metaphorically in a sense. It can mean your literal house, but more it is the household of your life, the household of your finances. And that's the way I like to think of my finances. There's some rooms that have my short-term needs. There's other rooms that have my long-term needs. There's rooms that have my assets that are providing cash flow. So all of these things are the different sections and areas of your household or your house, your life that you should be building out. It shouldn't just be one big room where everything's going in and everything goes out and then you not able to track or devote or dedicate resources and things for very specific purposes. Just like a household, again, this is a metaphor. Your kitchen is a designated place for what? Preparing and consuming and storing food and meals, right? Your bedroom is a very specific place. It has a very specific purpose. It's the place you go to rest and restore, right? Your restroom has a very specific purpose. A room like this, a family room, a living room, has a very specific purpose for entertaining and fellowship. Your finances should be the exact same way. So again, if you haven't seen it before, check out some of my other YouTube or Instagram social media posts around the 7-account framework. I actually walked through it over 3 weeks in a previous live. So that's dedicating the rooms and making sure those rooms are filled with beautiful things and treasures. All right. As we get into this now, let's take a look at the weekly spending plan. So here's what I want you to do. Most people, they just react to their money. They are not directing it. They do not plan how their money is being spent. So they respond to questions like, what do I feel like buying? As opposed to, what did I plan to fund? What did I plan to allocate to? This is the mind shift I want to move you to. away from the emotional reaction to the money that you see in your account into a more direct and deliberate and purposeful way of directing your funds. So as we look at this weekly plan, we're going to walk through the different sections of it, and we're just going to take stock of the information that is represented in this plan. So this is something I share and work on with many of the clients of the Minding Our Business Academy. And it's one of the integral parts of how we shift people from the consumer spend all mindset really to a kingdom-based stewardship mindset. All right, so producer, if you can pull up our weekly spending plan document for us. This is a demo document. So in this scenario, we're going to base it just middle of the road. We're going to say our weekly budget for this week is $2,000. We'll just assume we just got paid. We have $2,000 net dollars for this week to allocate. So as we look at the spending plan, the first section of the plan is your budget. What are you budgeting? So of course, we have our clients and students go ahead and fill out their name, fill out what week this is, and then that sets the context for what's going on, the time and the place. And then there's categories. So as you look in that first column, we're looking at very specific categories. So what are we looking at here? Our tithing and our giving is absolutely first. You guys know this is a core tenement of the Minding Our Business Financial Academy. It always starts with giving. So we start out with our giving, our tithe and offering. Then after giving, it's what you saved. Again, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. So then we're looking at what's going into saving. If you're combining this with the tracker that I went over in the last live, this is automatically calculated for you. As soon as you put in your income in the top of the spreadsheet, it automatically calculates the 10% for your giving and the 10% for your saving. Then let's get into the essentials, our groceries, our dining out, our transportation. And this document just begins to walk you through the phases of your household, utilities, your personal and household expenditure, entertainment, any medical or health, debt payments, miscellaneous, and then it summarizes your total budget and gives you the remainder. And then there's a reflection section that we're going to go through. So let's just go back to the top of the document. Let's deal with the next column over. This is how much I budgeted to spend last week. So the document starts out in retrospect. So again, if we go back up to the top of the document here, producer, if you can go back to the first page for me. We're going to look at the budgeted amount. So I took that $2,000. That was my total available dollars allocated. And then I start to fill out what I'm going to budget for each of the segments that I just went through. So then I'm allocating very specific dollar amounts to each section. Once I do that on a Sunday night or Wednesday night, whatever day of the week you plan to have your weekly financial meeting, then I go ahead and live life. Then the next meeting, that next weekend or whatever the day is, you're going to have your financial meeting with yourself. Now you go over to the actual spend column. And this is where I'm going through my receipts. I'm going through my bank statements, and I'm actually filling out the accountability section. Did I do what I said I was going to do? So yes, I tithed, $200 went to that. I saved, put $200 into my saving. I had allocated $300 for groceries, and look at that. There was a $10 variance because I only spent $290. So that third column is your variance. This is where you begin to look to see if you were over or under on any of your expenditures. So I was under by $10. That goes into $10 variance. And then there's a column there for notes where I can begin to congratulate myself, write notes about the circumstance of what was happening. Because a lot of times it's the circumstance that we don't take account for. Particularly when you're going over budget, I want you to go in there in the notes and write what was that circumstance that led you to going over budget, so you can begin to plan for those circumstances and integrate them into your overall budget. Then my dining out, I had allocated $100 for the week. I only spent 95. So again, I stayed under by $5. My gas, I actually went over on gas. So I had allocated $80 for gas. I used $85. So there was an extra midweek trip. I wrote a little note about that. So I was negative $5. On to the next page. So as I make my way through the document, then I go into my utilities. I didn't have any utilities that were actually due this week. I took care of all of those on the first of the month. So that was a zero out for that line item. Personal household, I allocated $150. Again, I stayed $10 under that. I restocked my household supplies and I was able to do that for $140. My entertainment was $100. I spent 90. So I'm on this under by $10 trend here. So I did do a movie night and we did that with streaming service as opposed to going out. The average movie ticket nowadays is about $20 to $25 plus the small bag of popcorn, which they call the large, is probably about $20 to $25 at most places. So you can save a lot by doing some of these things in alternate ways. All right, medical, I had $50 put aside in case I had any doctor's appointments or any of that. I didn't use any of that, so that's a whole $50 that was retained in the budget. My debt payments, I had planned to put $300 towards my debt. I held myself accountable, did put that extra $300 in payments towards my credit cards. So on this one, it says car loan plus credit card minimums. That was that extra $300. And then my miscellaneous was $100 for just expenditures, and I spent 95. I bought someone a birthday gift, and then I had some parking cost as well. So my total budget that I allocated was $1,580. And I was under that. So I was under that by $420. So if you do this on a weekly basis, you can begin to mitigate, find the areas that you're overspending, and begin to adjust your budget. If you were like me and you've been doing this for some time and you're really intentional about saving money, now I have that additional $420 in my budget that I wouldn't have had I not been tracking, had I not been meeting with myself weekly. Now I can celebrate by making an educated decision. I can use wisdom. Remember, you're trying to fill those rooms, as that scripture said, with wisdom. So now I can put that into my opportunity fund. If I have a vehicle and I'm coming up on the winter season, I need some maintenance to do on the vehicle, I could add that extra $420 to the vehicle maintenance costs, or even my home maintenance. So there's a lot that I can now begin to use wisdom and discretion and reallocate those funds to an area that is more constructive, rather than frivolously spending that extra $420. So now that I look at the reflection questions, I'll stay on this page and read that first question for you. What spending surprised you the most? So for me, I answered it, dining out costs added up quicker than I expected. That is some feedback that I hear from most of my clients. Most of us are not tracking what we're spending out. We don't meal prep or plan for our day, and then we end up buying breakfast, lunch, and then if you're a bit tired, you don't want to come home and cook, then you buy dinner, and then your dining out costs add up exponentially. So in the reflection questions, you're really trying to identify the behaviors and the circumstances you were in that either led to you overspending or actually created an opportunity for you to save. As we go down to the last page of our spending plan document, we'll look at the last two questions. So what was worth it? What wasn't worth it? So if you went out, for me, I went out in a family dinner. That was worth it to me. I spent time enriching relationships with the family, but I did some online shopping. That wasn't worth it. That was completely impulsive. So begin to document the areas where you allocated funds and they were completely in line with your core principles, core values, and they were 100% worth it. But then identify the expenditure that you had that was not worth it at all. How does this align with your financial goals and value? So for me, staying within that 10-10-80 principle, I was able to put that $200 towards tithing and charitable giving. I was able to put that $200 towards my saving. So that's in line with me, with my stewardship ideal and my goals for myself. And then I was able to stay, for the most part, $10 under budget on many of my areas. So for me, this is lining up really nicely. So now here's the last part of your weekly plan. Next week's spending. So you're just going to go over and do it all over again. So if you could jump back, producer, to that page, let's just look at the next week's plan. Thank you. So next week's plan, same categories. All I'm doing now is readjusting my amounts, either based on my previous activity or looking forward at what I'm planning. So for me, I didn't put it in here, but my groceries are probably going to be much higher because Thanksgiving's coming up and we got to get our ham and our turkey and our dressing and all of the trimmings and desserts and all those things. So this is where I'm going to begin to document my notes, my purpose, and any adjustments I'm going to make on each line item as I go and plan for this upcoming week. So I hope this was enriching to you to kind of see the inside of how I conduct these weekly meetings, how I coach clients to conduct these weekly meetings. It's really a 3-part process. You first have your budget, what you allocated to spend across these areas. So first, determining that budget, allocating the resources to each individual category. Secondly, going back and looking at what your actual spend was, documenting the variance and any notes about the situations and behaviors that you observed from yourself. And then third part is planning for the next week based on that information or based on what's coming up in your life and circumstances. So I hope this was really helpful to you. So as we close out this live, we're entering the end of the year. We have all sorts of, like I said, promotions and things pulling at us really to separate us from our money. But I want to offer you a promotion. I want to offer you the ability to work with us at the Minding Our Business Academy at a super discounted rate. We're offering a 50% off promotion for the end of the year. And here is all of the things that you will get. Here's the value that you'll find. So our year-end promotion, you'll have full access to our online training platform, recordings of myself going through the core principles and lessons that you need to first focus on your mindset and then begin to incorporate the actual tools that you'll need to be successful, to be a good financial steward. There'll be weekly coaching calls. So you'll have this live, but you can actually get on a weekly call with me, have a full interaction conversation. It's a group setting. We can talk about some of the challenges and things we face and problem solve together. You'll also have twice a month, so bi-weekly coaching calls, one-on-one with me, where we'll go over your specific goals, your specific plan. I will be that accountability for you to help you stay on the straight and narrow with your goals and your intention. On top of that, you'll have exclusive tools, all of the templates you've been seeing me and go through on these lives and more, the budgeting templates, the weekly spending plans, the seven account frameworks, and on and on. We have a ton of resources for you. You'll have access to those. Quarterly financial review. So 4 times a year, we look at where you are, and then we also tie in your credit review. So we're reviewing your credit scores, trade lines, your credit mix, your utilization. If these terms are foreign to you, well, that is the reason, or one of the reasons why you need to be in the academy, so you can get educated not only on financial literacy, but you can learn the core tools you need for financial management and to be a good steward. You'll also have real estate investing and wealth building lessons built into there. I'll show you how to acquire assets like these. I run a series. I have about 9 short-term rentals across 4 U.S. markets. So if that's something you're interested in, investing in real estate, I invest in physical gold and silver. I do have some stock portfolio as well. So we'll talk about first defining your investor DNA and then creating a plan to deploy your resources and build out your own portfolio that makes sense for you and is inside of that investor DNA for yourself. You'll also have access to a private Facebook community. And then again, any future events we're doing, we're hoping to plan some live events in 2026. You'll have discounts for attendance and tickets to all of that. So again, we're running a 50% promotion for you through the end of the year. We are really trying to serve as many people as we can and not make the cost of entry a barrier for you to get engaged, manage your finances, and become a good steward of the resources God has blessed you with. So thank you for this time and joining us on the live. Again, we try to keep this under 30 minutes. So as I will always tell you, stop scrolling, stop doing all the other stuff, really start minding your business, get some traction in your finances, begin to track, plan, and really begin to manage the resources God is blessing you with. So thank you for joining us again on another live. Have a great Wednesday night, and go ahead, drop some comments in the thread there. Let us know what day works for you. Let us know some topics or things that you're interested in having us cover for you. And with that said, go out and mind your own business. Take care. Thanks for joining us at the MOB Academy. Now stop scrolling and go mind your business.